All right, and we're back into reframing depression and breaking through it. It's actually more like breaking through to balance. Two very important things to remember here are it's very powerful for us to admit that we're in the state of stress, anxiety, and depression, because a lot of us are too busy just blaming elsewhere and not really conscious of the fact that, hang on, this is an internal process by my own perceptions. So I commend everyone for doing it. It's utterly heroic for anyone that's come this far. And the good news is you're pretty much on the downhill run to actually breaking through it and regulating your own emotional cycles, which is a very, very powerful place to be. So first thing about, once we know this, it's so easy for us to say that I am sad. I am stressed, I am anxious, I am depressed. But we must remember that is identifying yourself with it. And it is just an emotion, and you are not just the emotions. Emotions do sway. There is an ebb and flow always. So it's important to remember that I don't identify with it as I am not. So instead of I am sad, I am anxious, I am depressed. As I'm feeling sad and I'm feeling anxious and I'm feeling depressed. And in that way, it's very powerful, because then you're not identifying yourself as the actual symptom, as the actual feedback. You're actually identifying it as it is. Very powerful. Next point, too, is to then actually realize that the feeling that you've got and the emotion that you're feeling is actually feedback to a deeper truth. It is the intelligent universe giving you the signs, giving you the feedback that, hang on, a balance is it's wanting to get back to balance, and you're not in that complete balance. There's vital information that is being left out that hasn't been observed yet, and it's pointing it out to you. As soon as you start doing that, you're back into your logical mind, and when you're in your logical mind, you're not in the mind that is looking for your reactive mind, which is often your fight, flight, and freeze mind. Very important. Right, moving on. Now, what I meant about, say, breaking through to balance is kind of this, and it's a deep topic, so I'm going to read it slowly and maybe even twice. So you're looking at transcending the vicious loop that is our attachment to our polarized perceptions, and moving from that to balance. I'll say it again. So you're transcending the vicious loop of our attachments to the polarized perceptions, back to balance. Now, the reason we're attached to those polarized perceptions is because we pretty much still in the first stage of the Kubler-Ross 5 stages of grief. Now, the 5 stages of grief, I think we mentioned it earlier, is your denial, your anger, your bargaining, your depression, and then you finally get to acceptance, which is the stage, the most empowering stage of all. But when you're in that denial, it clouds our vision, and you're not wanting to see anything beyond that. It's like, nope, should never have happened. And that is where we get stuck. And that's where our attachments come, and we have this very polarized perception, and we don't allow ourselves to really get beyond it until we get to this, beyond those 5 stages of grief, till we get to acceptance. And it's like, damn it, this has happened. Now what? So what is this balance that we speak of? This balance we speak of is the moving from our polarized perspectives and emotions. Those polarized ones, which are for us typically are our anger, the bargaining, the denial, the anguish. However, the polarized perceptions are even the euphoria of joy and ecstasy, and those are also temporary, because that's the other end of the scale. And then we're transcending those and transitioning our perceptions to the transcendent emotions, which those transcendent emotions are not so polarized. And the transcendent emotions are the emotions like love. It's like contentment. It's like satisfaction. They're not this big polarized. It's a very balanced emotion and a balanced state to be in. Okay, cool. So now how do we break through? We're stuck now in this space because we like familiarity, we want certainty. We get addicted to that familiarity and the certainty, so we become kind of attached to it, and we get it's a natural human trait to be paranoid of the unknown. So we find ourselves kind of stuck in this state. That's why it takes a lot of brave people to actually break out of it. It's an adventure, and you've got to look at it like that. So we need to break the cycle of just this intense focus of what is the downsides. Okay, that's our one-track focus, the polarized focus. The downsides of just the badness, the wrongness, how we can condemn everything, and then we have to shift to actually to notice the upsides, because we're blinded to the upsides. To us, there's absolutely no goodness in this whatsoever. There's no yin and yang. It is just pure evil, which makes it very difficult. So you've got to, and the truth is that there's good and bad in absolutely everything. Even the most evil things that have come out of it, people have always, in hindsight, seen great tools that they've been able to take away. That has added to their empowerment, to their freedom, to their greater awareness about themselves, to the greater awareness about people in general, and a vaster, grander awareness and knowledge that they can share to other people. So it's about looking at what has actually happened and digging really deep to see what empowerment can I take away from this, what greater awareness, what is it showing me about my unique individuality that is only to me, and how can I turn my stressing into a blessing? How can I take my mess and turn it into a message? Quite often it's not the retribution that brings the healing. It's actually the healing is us shifting our own perceptions about it. It's a huge mental shift, and it's about seeing deeper truths about it. And that's actually where the healing actually comes from. And in that way, that is what relieves all the dis-ease and disorder from whatever the circumstance was. So you could actually say that the breakthrough is a reanalysis. It is a reviewing, a revealing, a readdressing, a reframing, a rechanneling, and ultimately a reintegrating of a much deeper awareness surrounding the trauma that happened, surrounding the trauma itself. Now, when you're addressing polarities and you realize that you've only focused on the one-sidedness of the nature, which is the condemnation, of what happened, and then everybody says that now forgiveness is the key. I kind of question that in a way, but then when you start to balance out our awareness of polarized projections, we then actually realize that forgiveness itself is actually a polarized perception, because what we're doing is it's not in great balance, because what we're actually doing is we're putting the perpetrator into the prison, right down into the dungeon, and we're putting ourselves as elevated right up as we're the victim. We're more saintly, and that person needs to kind of pay, and that isn't really in balance. Now, this is a difficult concept to get around, because we just want to incarcerate people that have wronged us. But if you can get to the stage where you can actually see that forgiveness is a polarized perception, and if you can balance it out, normally people that are hurting you are the ones that are actually hurting the most themselves, and they're the ones that actually require empathy. If you can get to that stage, and not judgment, because judgment really all it does is equal pain and suffering all around, which is why our soul state and our deepest state of awareness doesn't sit in judgment. It really doesn't, because it sees it as fruitless, and it sits in the transcendent state where there's no need to there's no condemnation happened in the first place. So if you can transcend above the condemnation, you'll actually realize that no forgiveness needs to actually take place, because there's no condemnation. There's actually empathy for the person, because that person is in a bad place, ruled by fears, and that's why they inflicted such trauma against you. Once you get to that stage, you've transcended a very, very big block, and your awareness is forever changed. And the beautiful thing that happens is you move into a state of elevated, higher awareness, and your empathy for other people just flows naturally, and your gratitude for what you've got just seems to flow naturally, and it's a really beautiful state to be in. Now, you can't expect to live there all the time. I know I don't. Especially when I'm driving, I'm the first person to to swear at people and to condemn others. But I am at a higher level of awareness now, where I can giggle at myself afterwards. And I'm not in that state of torment and angst and stress, anxiousness and depression because of somebody cutting me off in traffic or driving rudely. I'm in it for a much shorter state of time, and I break out of it very quickly. And that's pretty much what we're all wanting to do, is not to be in that state of depression like I was for 3 years solid, unable to break out of it. And it took me that long. Well, it happened. I can't judge it. No, it happened, and it took me that long, and it helped me to process it all. So I'm grateful to do it. And because of it now, I'm able to break out of my deep states of sadness, anxiety, and depression a lot easier. And I'm not in that quicksand, and I'm not in that horrible state for nearly as long. And that's pretty much what I'm wanting to get across to you guys here. So it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to live there permanently. So get help. It's not okay to not tell somebody, to not process it, to not find ways to regulate it. Brilliant. I think the next stage is the 5 stages of healing. And this is a very exciting part for me, because I really enjoy this part, because I'll also be using the live looping to illustrate it, to symbolize it, so that it can aid attention, retention, and recall. And my other love, which is music, will be included as well. Brilliant. Maybe watch this again and again, just so that you can really absorb and let those deeper principles wash over you, because there's some deep stuff here that we're looking at that we not always have been conditioned to accept. We're very much conditioned to polarize things as left and right, north and south, right and wrong, good and bad. Great. All the best. I'll see you in the next clip.
The Big Cigar.